Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Cowboys Takeover. I'm your host, Jason Kent. Yes, the time has arrived. It is wildcard weekend. What we've been waiting for all season. We get to go in as the number 2 seed. But man, it's nice to get that home playoff game to start out this season. This is what they've really worked for, and you've put in all those hours of work this season to get where you are, so you can get that first playoff game at home. So we're going to start off. We have the GreenBay Packers bringing Mr. Aaron James. Aaron, how you doing today, sir? How excited are you? Just a couple days out from another run after just the disappointing last 2 seasons, the way the season ended in the playoffs, man. We've been just chomping at the bit to get to this point, and it's here. How are you feeling? How confident are you going into this weekend?
Man, I'm really confident, very confident. So much so, it's like I'm just going to be relaxed the whole game, even if I see some errors in the first quarter. I'm like, you know what? We got this. There's just too much that we do too well coming in at home. I know.
This guy's got some hubris here. That's tough, man.
But look, it's like in the offseason, we were like, hey, we know we're a playoff team. We wanted to see what we could do through the regular season. We ended up finishing, whether you want to say the Eagles lost it, the Eagles probably actually lost it more than we won the division. But, the ball falls on our side this season. And, hey, man, I'm excited to finally get things going and, talk about some things I think we can expect that we haven't seen all regular season. And, it's a nice little – the Packers are the team that I wanted. I didn't want to face the Seahawks just because of the success they had against us. And I didn't want to face the Rams because when you got Kupp and Nakua and Stafford on all cylinders, just like it reminded me a lot of that 49ers team that came in a couple seasons ago as a wild card. So I think this is a nice game to start off wild card weekend.
And, as I said to you, though, I'm so like I'm on the complete opposite end of you. Like the more I sat down and I looked at this game, I've gotten nervous. Just because, we'll go into it, but we should win this game. When you look at the two teams on paper, Dallas is the better team. Dallas is getting to play at home, where they're undefeated this season. And it's against the Green Bay team, like you said. Jordan Love still, he's not a rookie, but it's his first year starting. We all saw the troubles he's had this season. They've had a really up and down season. So when you look at the start of this season, they get a win in Chicago. Then they lose to Atlanta, and then they barely beat New Orleans. And then they just go on a nice little losing streak. So, they lose to Detroit, they lose to Vegas, have a bye week, come back at Denver, lose again at Minnesota. So this is a team that started out the season 2-5, and then they go, split and split. So, now they're 3-6 through 10 weeks of this season. And I remember early on, you heard all the talk about Jordan Love not being the guy. Maybe they did move on from Rodgers. And I felt like a lot of people thought that as well, right? When you're watching this team, they just didn't. They look like a bad team. Jordan Love looked like a bad quarterback. And I remember early in the season, the defense even coming out and saying, we know we have to play better because the offense is very young. They're the youngest team in the NFL. So they have a lot of young guys. And I think you saw that through the first half of that season. But then, man, what they came back and they did, they put on a run at the end of that season to really get themselves that last wild card spot, man. What do you think it was that changed or turned their season around?
It's hard to really pin down what turned their season around, but I will tell you, after taking some time to listen to some local sports radio out in Wisconsin, which I like to do during the playoffs, is the fans are like, hey, the Packers going into the season wanted to figure out 2 things. Do we have a franchise quarterback? And is LaFleur the guy to coach and lead us? And right now, it looks like the answers to those questions are yes. Were they planning to get in the playoffs? Not really. That wasn't really on their expectations. So they're coming in, and I guess you can say what the Packers have on their side is yes, youth, yes, inexperience, but also kind of youth that knows no boundaries at this point.
Yeah.
They don't have the baggage, whereas the Cowboys, every player is checking in some bags for the game. As you know, we got Dak checking in bags. You got McCarthy with a lot of luggage, and he's going to be going on another flight home if this doesn't, not with the team if this doesn't go well. So,
Yeah.
but to your point, I get it. The Packers finished on a 6-2 run.
Yeah, well, and won the last three when they really needed to win all three, and they went out against, it may not be the best competition, but when you're a bad team and can go out and clear the last three of the season to back your way into the playoffs, they're a very, they're a hot team right now.
Yeah. So they're on a nice little streak, but at the same time, you look at their schedule, they beat Carolina, which okay, but only by 3, by the way. 33-30. So Carolina, probably their highest scoring game for them. Minnesota is on their last legs. They're playing Nick Mullins, so they go into Minnesota and win 33-10. And then Chicago is Chicago. Their highlight win of the season was probably against Detroit Thanksgiving. And
because I always saw they did beat Kansas City as well.
Season.
They're probably not a highlight win this season like Detroit is, but they have beaten a good competition this year.
Yeah, well, I was going to say for that Detroit game, they had like 3 turnovers in the first half or something like that. That's really what gave them a monster lead at halftime, and they kind of were able to steer them off. But again, they're division rivals, so you can expect a competitive game regardless of the records. But they're going to be excited to come in. The thing is also, when you look at the schedule, they play pretty well on turf, and as much as I like home field advantage, and the crowd has been in it this year, it's a nice clean field to play on.
So when you look at this team, and this is, I think, what worries me the most, because when I look at Green Bay, they're not a team, like Dallas, where you have CeeDee Lamb, everybody else. They have a lot of guys that do well. They're not flashy. They're not going to be 1,500-yard receivers, but Jordan Love really turned himself around into a very decent passer. He's got 32 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. And when you look at their breakdown, this is what's so good. Jaden Reed, 64 catches, 94 targets for 793 yards. Dubes, 59 catches, 674. Wicks, 39 for 50 or for 581 yards. And their touchdowns are very spread out too. And then the one thing I was saying to you, what's making me most nervous about this season, no, Aaron Jones has not had a season that he has in the past. But if you look at the last 3 games that they played that they needed to win, only, outside of those 3 games, he had 1 game of 20 carries. Last 3 games, 20 carries plus over 5 yards a carry each game, 3 straight wins. And that helps relieve the pressure on Jordan Love, who has really turned into a pretty good passer, much better than he was early in the season. I think him just, something clicking with him. You got to get some starts in. This year it was all the pressure. Really, you're taking over, basically for 2 legends. The 2 quarterbacks before you were Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. I don't know about you, but that's got to be a lot weighing down on any quarterback. So he seemed to figure it out, and then just they have so many. And the other thing I like when I looked at their schedule, their last 5 games, they've had 5 different receivers lead the team in yards. So they're not a team that you can really prepare. Hey, we need to stop this, because Jordan Love goes to them all, and their running game with Aaron Jones is clicking right now. So I think what we can expect from them is a lot of that. I think you're going to see a lot of Aaron Jones this weekend. A lot. Aaron Jones is going to have probably 25 to 30 touches this weekend for that offense. I think they're going to try to ride him to a victory.
I can see that happening, which is why I think we'll need to. I think our offense is going to have a lot of success, so it's going to force them not to have as many carries for Jones as he would like. I guess I think it's also worth mentioning. Was it last season we went into Green Bay and then Aaron Rodgers leads them back in the second half when we were up, I think 14 points in the third quarter or something along those lines. So, LaFleur did make adjustments in that game, and he has at least that recent familiarity with our defense, which we still run the same defense as before. So, that's something to keep in mind in how he's going to attack us. To your point, there's no diva on the offensive side. Jordan Love really goes to whoever's open and follows the play designs. But I just think that they're going to have a hard time with our pass rush.
They may.
And so I think that's going to be a factor for them. But I also expect for them to throw in the kitchen sink and see a lot of gadget plays as well. Loves a mobile guy. Expect to see reverses and Philly special type of plays. And I do expect them to be going for it on fourth downs and do what we've been doing, and that is chase points to try to create momentum or whatever the case may be. That's really what I expect the Packers to come in very hungry for.
And then another thing, big news going out today. You saw something that'll help Dallas. It really hurts, I think, Green Bay's defense, because they're a defense that has 45 sacks on the season, and they have quite a few guys that have some good numbers. Kenny Clark's a very good player. Preston Smith, and their big cornerback Jair Alexander apparently went down at practice today and sprained his ankle, putting his ability to play this weekend in question, which you never want to hope for an injury on another team or to help you win. Yeah. But it definitely gives Dallas an advantage there. But I think they're going to try to come at Dallas. I think Dax looks very good. Dallas should have their full complement of offensive linemen this week. So it depends. I think a lot of it depends too. If AJ Dillon's back, you may see him sprinkling a little bit. But I just think, I really think Green Bay is just going to try to ride their guy who's done well for them in the past. Looking on the other side, I think expecting from Dallas, when Green Bay is one of the worst run defenses in the league, they're right there with Dallas, bad. And their pass defense is one of, I think it's around 10th. So I think Dallas, this would be a good week to get Pollard involved and try to get him going. Because I do think next week and, hopefully when you get to that NFC Championship game, you have to have Pollard rolling. For as good as Dak's been this season, and I think we've both stated Dak, this season, I don't think Dak is going to lose us the game, but I think he's going to need help. So I want to see Pollard a vocal point in the run game this week. That's, and I think, like you said, on the other side, I do think Dallas gets up early, and I think boys are going to eat. I think Micah and Tank are going to eat. And I expect them to go after the passer. So, Dallas is built to play with the lead. I do think they get the lead. We have a couple Madden simulations we can go over later. They seem to maybe think the same way. But they're going to rush, because if they're getting gashed, that's where it falls apart. If Aaron Jones has that type of day, that could be a bad day. And, the more I look at, that's where I get nervous, because the Dallas is one weakness. Their most glaring weakness is when they're getting gashed in that run game, it turns into a long day. So I think they're going to, if I'm Dallas, I want the ball in the first. Let me get the ball. Let me go down and score. Let me play with the lead starting the game. I think that's what you need from Dallas, to go down, take the opening kickoff, kind of like, from the Little Giants. I want the ball. I'm going to ram it down your throat. When you get the ball, I'm going to take it from you and ram it down your throat. That's what you need to see, for the first few possessions for the Cowboys this weekend, because they need to get out to a lead. I don't want to see a close game. That'll make me nervous.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely don't want to see it close. I've been now at this point convinced that there's a set number of carries to get the max value out of Pollard.
Okay.
I feel like he's in that 14 to 16 max carry type of back. And I want him 100%, deep in the playoffs. So I'm okay with 12 carries, 12 to 13 for Pollard, 12 to 13 for Rico. I think Rico can be really just as effective than Pollard. So for me, I do think McCarthy's going to try to force the run like we've seen in prior games, to kind of let everyone settle in, let the nerves settle in, I hate to say it, but kind of tame Dak a little bit. Don't let anything get out of control. Even though our pass protection is the best part of our offensive line, I don't think there's anything to worry about. I do expect to see some unique play designs that we haven't seen before. I really thought, whether it be Cooks or CD, I think there's been some good things, but it just feels like McCarthy's been holding a lot in the bag for this time of the year. I just really get that sense. So I'm excited to see kind of what he brings out to the table. We saw CD, and really the Detroit Lions game was a lot closer than it should have been, with, if you recall, CD fumble into the end zone. So, I think we even have more confidence in talking through some of those mistakes.
The Cooks touchdown pass too. And then the next play, the interception.
Yeah, exactly. The interception. So, that aside, I want to see our penalties, be cleaned up. No more, ideally, especially on offense, that kill drives. I don't want to see more than 2 on offense and no more than 2 on defense. To me, that tells me the guys are coming in discipline, and there's no need for us to be tempted to hold or cause for a penalty, because on paper we're just a lot more talented than this Green Bay team. So we shouldn't feel like we need to get that extra edge on them. Trust in the teammates. And I say we're going to keep the Packers under 17 points this game. And when we're averaging well over 35, I think it is now or so at home, we got a nice 10-digit or 10-point at minimum win. So I actually like the spread in this game, because I think it was at 8.
Last I saw, I think it was 7 when I saw. Yeah,
that's a good number.
It is. And just talking about how talented we are as a team. But before we go into the next topic, I did want to congratulate these guys, because these are, the players decide on who the all pros are. They give the vote. And Dallas had quite a few of the players. So, coming in wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. Left guard was a tie. So Tyler Smith ended up getting left guard all pro. The players voted on him. So his second year in, man, he really, is coming into his own. And then again, of course, Zach Martin, who's just a stalwart in that all-pro line. And then you have Deron Bland as well. And lastly, Brandon Aubrey. So, those are the guys that the players vote on for the all-pro. So to see, just, again, I remember the days when you had 3 all-pro offensive linemen with Frederick, Martin, and Smith. So it's nice to see Tyler Smith, maybe next year you bump him out over to tackle, but it's nice to see him. Or so is that even something you would think about after the season, if you do go to Tyron Smith, that you bump him over to tackle, or do you keep him as an all-pro right at the guard position?
I just think it depends on the draft and free agency and what you have to work with, and because you do have some of that flexibility, I think we do go big man for the draft, whether it be a DT, which would be a second year in a row. Mozzie hasn't really lived up to that first pick expectation. Not that I've given up hope, but it's just not what we've expected. And Big Boy Hankins, we talk about the run game. It's kind of night and day when he's not there.
Yeah,
he did a really good job during the Commanders game. So I'd like to think that he's really close to 100%. for this first playoff game.
Yeah. So the next topic, and I think this has been something early in the season, even the preseason, we had a lot of discussion about it. I don't think anybody's going to say we want McCarthy to lose. But do you necessarily have, I think a lot of us believe if he doesn't get to at least the NFC Championship game, he's out of here. So with what you've seen from him this season, do you want him? Is this something where you're like, okay, I would sacrifice a year to get a new head coach in here? Or do you want to, with what you've seen from him this season, are you comfortable to run with him, going forward?
So I'm a little bit torn, and I'm still on the fence because at one degree, if I'm the GM, or in this case Jerry Jones, it's like, hey, I've given you the talent to win 13 games in 3 consecutive seasons, and we have really nothing to show for it. We have 2 playoff wins, maybe 3, and to me that screams like coaching hasn't gotten us to the finish line. On the other hand, you got McCarthy, and you've seen what he's been able to do with building Dak's confidence, putting Dak in situations to be successful, Dak understanding the language, being in the MVP conversation. It's hard. I'm tempted not to want to start over from that perspective. And then I want to get your thoughts on this as well. You have we're going into an off season where you have probably the deepest class of coaches that become available that we've seen in quite some time. With Belichick and Pete Carroll on the top.
I don't think both of those guys they're not names he would go after. I don't. Bill Parcells was the last guy that really had a name like that, and before that, him and Jimmy, that's why Jimmy left. So I just don't see him bringing in a guy that's going to want to run the organization. Belichick, if he gets a job, Belichick's running that organization. I don't see Jerry giving him the opportunity. And, I don't think Pete Carroll really deserved it. I think it was more he had such a good team. He cost them a Super Bowl,
That's true.
And so I don't think he's the coach I want to give my organization to. So, but Dallas, if hopefully they don't, but if God forbid that, they lose this weekend, McCarthy goes, Dallas is the most attractive job to any of your top suitors, taken out, because I don't think either one of those other guys come here. But it's tough. Like you said, I'm kind of torn. Early in the season, I didn't want to see him succeed. I didn't want to see him stay here. It was kind of one of those things. I'd be okay to sacrifice the hand so the body lives later and we get somebody else in here.
Okay.
But right now, with my confidence in Dak and what I've seen him, and I don't know if it's much as Dak is finally back to being 100% confident in himself and his play style, that we really saw the emergence come, because, now it's been, more than a season that he's been back from that injury. So you don't know if it's that or if it was, McCarthy changing the way he plays. But this is the first time I felt comfortable with Dak as a quarterback. So it's tough for me to say I want McCarthy not to succeed, because he seems to be bringing the most out of Dak right now. And that's what Dak needs. This team's going to go as far as Dak can take them. Right now, McCarthy has Dak playing at a very high level. So it's tough.
He is. And of the coaches now, Belichick does get me excited. I have to say, because because he cures the situational play calling and the discipline. If we get better at situational, all right, and penalty discipline meaning penalties, we are a much scarier team. Plus, I feel like with the players that we have and what Belichick can do with someone like a Parsons, like a Blandon Diggs, he's always had Gilmore, and he picked up Revis, and now he has Diggs and Bland at minimum. Man, I think that could be dangerous. But
2008 Tom Brady with them, okay?
Well, so here's the other thing. I think when he looks at how well Will McClay has done in talent acquisition and our draft picks, he's not going to be so eager to say, I need, he wants to go to a ready team. He doesn't want to go to a rebuild situation.
I disagree. That guy's ego, he wants to prove. I really think his ego, he's going to want to prove that he could do it without Tom. You know, he made the playoffs that first year, but then tanked. He's never won without Tom Brady. Like, this is an argument for a different day, but I 100%, I will die on this sword. He was nothing without Tom Brady. Yes, he was a great coordinator. He wasn't a great head coach until Tom Brady took over. Dying on that sword. He was about to get fired from New England. And Tom Brady won him. You know, when you're winning, it's easy to put the success. I believe it had everything to do with Tom. I just don't think he's going to take a job. I think his ego wants him to build a team, and he wants to do it with his way. I don't think him and Jerry will mesh at all.
I think he's had his humble pie. He tried to do it without Tom. It failed miserably. He wants to go to a team that has a quarterback. We'll see who's right.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to turn Belichick away. Like, if we lose this weekend and they're like, yo, we're bringing in Belichick now, I'm okay with it. I just don't think he comes here. But it would be fun. It'd be nice. I just really like what McCarthy's done with Dak this year. You know, after the rough start early on, you know, they have something together that I really like this season. And Dak, I hope he gets his rematch with San Fran with where he's playing right now. I really hope we do.
I hope so too. I think it's likely that happens.
Me too.
You know, the thing with McCarthy is it's like he's a nice guy. You want to see him to do well. He seems like a good person. But again, the multiple double-digit win seasons to me just says like you have the talent, and you know the Eagles got there in pretty quick fashion. Yes, the timing hasn't worked out with the Niners really you kind of hitting their stride the last couple seasons, and including this season. So you kind of get unlucky in those situations, but you know, it's like
how far does he have to go, do you think? Do you think NFC championship game is good enough for him to keep his job?
It's at least NFC championship game, but it also has to be a competitive game. If it's a blowout game,
agree.
It's not
I think if
work.
he gets because he has been here a long time. And, you know, it's tough to want to start over, but he needs, you know, if you fail again, especially if it's San Fran, and even if it's against San Fran and you lose like you have the last 2 years, I think you have to get rid of him. I think at this point, I really believe if you lose to somebody else in a close game in the NFC Championship game, I think I would swallow that pill. If you lose to San Fran in any fashion in the NFC Championship game, he's got to go, because it
would be the third playoff loss against that same team
in a row. And this season, more than any other season that I can remember, is built for anybody to win. I really believe. You know, I do think the clear favorites like are Baltimore and San Fran.
Mm-hmm.
But I truly believe it's wide open. I think they can be beaten on any day. Baltimore's blown out San Fran. Baltimore's been beat. So it's just, I just think this is a year where if you got to go get the ring, you got to go get the ring. If you're McCarthy, if he loses, yeah, you can't lose to San Fran again. I don't care if it's NFC Championship game, you're out. I don't care if you lose by a point.
Yeah, I agree. So, you know, we'll see how things shake out, but there are options out there. And, you know, the whole thing with the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson has about the same amount of scrutiny as Dak Prescott does as far as his playoff success. So to your point, it's wide open. You know, unfortunately they're the most physical teams going into the playoffs, and they get coming off a bye week, so they're getting some extra rest. So that bodes well in their favor.
McCaffrey's going to be healthier now. McCaffrey's going to, resting because he did get banged up. So it's good. That's where, that number 1 seed does help. It helps those guys, because they're able to rest up.
Yeah. Well, before we get into Madden simulation, who are you rooting for in the other 2 NFC matchups? And how do you think those are going to play out, I should say?
So I really think I would love to see LA win and Philly win. Because that means you get a weekend of Rams and I Rams, Niners, Dallas, Philly. And those are, I know, a lot of our don't follow Rams, Niners, but I have friends that are Niners fans. That's a big game. Yeah. That is a game. So I just think it would make for a great weekend. And I do think the best shot at taking out the Niners before we could is the Rams. And I would just love to beat the Eagles in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be beautiful.
I talked with an Eagles fan just before we went on air in this about an hour ago. And he said, man, I'd rather lose to the Bucks than have to lose to the Cowboys. It's like, just get it over with.
Yeah.
They do not want to play us in the playoffs.
They don't want to play anybody with the way they're playing right now. I don't think I've seen any confidence from and which is crazy because I still think like, come on, they're not going to lose to Baker Mayfield in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like they're a confident team, but looking at the Madden simulation, we'll give our predictions after I think they played out, so I ran 2 because the first one I didn't grab the stats. But when they look at the Madden simulation, it plays out just the way Aaron and I really expected to. So, just going through the stats, Jordan Love throws, in the game is 22 of 32 for 232 yards and a touchdown and 1 interception. So he's got a 68, very efficient on the game, just doesn't throw a lot. Dak 25-37 for 292, 67%, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's the big thing. The big difference comes in, in this game where, the running back comparisons. They held Aaron Jones. So they're saying Aaron Jones is only going to rush 5 times, as opposed to Pollard, who I don't think you would like this, but Pollard had 22 carries for 82 yards. Something to be said about your efficiency there. More carries, less yards. He had 0 touchdowns, but Dallas got up big early. This game got close. So Dallas ended up winning 27-17. So they didn't score the 35. Green Bay hits your 17-point mark, but 14 points came in the fourth quarter. So Dallas, one of those games that we said that Dallas needs to run away with it. So Dallas gets up very big, and then Green Bay scores 14 points in the fourth quarter to make it respectable. And it's kind of like we said, Green Bay, they just, Jaron Reed had 7 catches for 75 yards, Dube 6 for 58, Watson 5 for 57. So they really spread the ball out. The one I liked, Ferguson, 7 catches, 68 yards, 2 tutters. Brandon Cooks, another 7 catches, 73 yards. CeeDee Lamb, they didn't need to use much, 5 for 46. Don't think that happens. I see him getting a lot more. Yeah. That's bumped though, double the catches, triple the yards, most likely. Gallup has 4 for 70, and then there's a couple other guys in there that have catches. And on the defensive side, Green Bay only had 2 sacks, with Preston Smith getting 1.5 and Kenny Clark getting a half. The 2 of the guys we mentioned as they're stalwarts on defense. They're good defensive linemen and linebackers that know how to rush the quarterback. And on the other side, Dallas, had Tank with a 1.5 sacks. Golson had a sack. Micah had a sack, and OC had a 1/2 sack. So like kind of we expected and how we envision this game going. At least I think, I know myself does. Dallas getting up big, letting that defense do what it does and rush the quarterback, and get sacks. And they did have an interception with Gilmore getting it in the simulation, which would be beautiful to see, because Gilmore hasn't practiced, but he did say, like, there's no way I'm missing this game. Gilmore said he's not. So I do expect him to play, so I think that's, I do see Jones. My one thing is I see Jones doing a little bit better. I do see him having about 20 carries. The big thing is, can they stop him early in the game? like I said, I want Dallas to let's get the ball, let's go down and score. Let's force Jordan Love to beat us. And I don't think, just talent for talent, Dallas is a better team. So my prediction, I do have it 31-13 Dallas. I think it's one of those games Dallas gets up early. I am, as nervous as I am, I think I wouldn't be shocked, as big as that my blowout is right now, I wouldn't be shocked if Green Bay beat us. I just think, my envision for McCarthy, what I want them to do, this is why I'm giving that prediction. This is what I wanted to play out. Dallas to go down early and score. Because if it's a close game, I'm very nervous about Aaron Jones. He's the key factor, I think, for Green Bay.
All right. I like those numbers, and I like your score prediction. I'm giving each team a little bit more points. I have the Cowboys at 34,
okay,
and I have Green Bay at 17.
Okay, so a little bit more, yeah. So you think it's Dallas just gets up big early and just goes?
Yeah, I think we get a turnover or two that's going to give us great field position, lead to points. I think we're going to score on a lot of drives. Again, I think at least earlier in the season, I think it continued on, but we got in the red zone. We're one of the teams that get in the red zone a lot. So yeah. I think we're going to convert a lot. I think this defense is going to give
up. That was the stat. They were 4 for 4 in the red zone in the game. So, that Madden has them going 4 for 4 in the red zone. That's what they need to do. They have to. That was the biggest early on. That was our biggest Achilles heel early in the season. They seemed to clean it up, but just not punching it into the end zone and chasing too many points. I think that was our one issue we had.
It seems like their go-to in the red zone is that deep outpost for Cooks.
They love that thing.
They keep getting that play going, or Cooks is running across and almost like a mesh concept, but. No, if you're man to man and you got your third DB on Cooks is going to win those matchups.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
But
yeah, I just think Dak's very efficient. And to me, the big factor for picking Dallas, and I know I'm nervous, but I think Jair Alexander, if he misses that game, and Dallas should win. This is a game. If McCarthy loses, he 100% has to be out. But Dallas, talent for talent, is just a better team. I'm just always worried about our run defense. And Aaron Jones is a very, very good back, and he's on a little bit of a heater right now.
Well, because they don't have that true number one receiver that's elite, you can put as many guys in the box as you want. We should feel comfortable in a lot of one-on-one matches. We're probably going to have one high safety. That's how I would play it if I'm DQ coming in and see how things go. If you want to be conservative, play a conservative fashion. It's probably a one possession game. We're probably up by one possession going into halftime. But then I see, once they reveal their cards, DQ is going to make the right adjustments, and then we kind of run away from it. Maybe only give up 3 points or 1 touchdown in the second half.
I could see that. I think it needs to be an emphasis. I do think Green Bay knows what they need to do. They know that, Jordan Love's not going to go out and shouldn't beat this team, because I think we're too good in the pass rush. Our DBs are too good. So, there you have it. Mr. Aaron James, 34-17. I have it 31-13. We both predict a pretty fairly easy win for the Cowboys, as it should be. They're the number 2 seed for a reason. They're the way they play at home. They haven't lost at home this season. If it's on the road, it may be a different story, but this is just one of those games where the Cowboys need to win and McCarthy needs to show up. So I can't wait, and I can't thank each and every one of you that checked in today and watched, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. Go give us a like and a subscribe on all of our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Give us a subscribe on our YouTube page. That's where you can catch each of these shows each and every week. And I just want to give a big shout out to each and every one of you for listening and watching. You can listen on Spotify or wherever you guys get your podcast listening needs. But this weekend, 4:30 on Sunday, it's a huge game. It's step one. It's a game the Cowboys should win. It's a game they need to win. McCarthy needs to have it. Dak needs to have it, and they need to move on. It's time to right the ship, and this offense and Dak need to take that next step. And I think Dak has this season, so I think we'll see a good game from him. I think it'll be fairly easy. we'll be there. We'll see with you guys Sunday after the game. We'll be there for the post-game show. Hopefully, it's happiness and joy and not sorrow defeat to Green Bay. Thank you guys all for watching. Appreciate you. God bless. See you Sunday.